Good morning. Thanks, Dr. Varma, for letting me do this in an unorthodox manner. Okay, I have less than 15 minutes to do this in, as you warned me. So let's get straight to it. I'm going to just hit on, there are a lot of things that can be hit in here, but I'm going to hit on the main ideas, if you will. So I love this piece. It was about music. I'm a musician and I love music. I'm a worship pastor as well. Uh, So in this clip that we had to watch, there's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jeremy. He's the lecturer. He starts by posing a question that he's answering. In what ways can music be a gateway to the holy, uniting people in a shared vision? And he starts off by explaining, in a sense, a wedding that he was invited to in a Presbyterian church. And as the crowd grows, the noise level grows. Then he's looking for a way to be creative to have these people simmer back down. So he comes up with an idea to play a theme from Downton Abbey, which brings the room to a hush. And this time he's thinking about the fact about how music was creative and it commanded the attention of the room. What is it about music? What is it about music that unites people and brings them together? Well, he explains it like this, and he has 3 points like a preacher would. He was a preacher as well. But he has 3 points, and he says it like this. He calls it the 3 powers of music. The way music mixes sound, how we see the world in contrast to how we hear it. Painters can paint on a canvas, and you can see the outcome. But you can't see, or what you can't see is the 2 colors that may occupy the same space at one time. Those 2 colors come together and they make something beautiful, making a third. It's not the same with people. 2 people cannot occupy the same space at one time. I love this. He further goes on to talk about the Trinity and how it works there. You can talk about 3 people in one, or 3 persons in one space. He plays a single note as he sits down at the piano to fill that space. Then he plays a second note, and then he plays a third to make it a chord. You see, a chord or notes played simultaneously on a piano can fill one space at the same time. They can fill that space simultaneously. Music offers an intense experience of unity while preserving and enhancing difference is what he says. I'm sorry. Okay. While it brings us together in worship, he says it preserves differences in the vast, diverse area of what we may need. No other art form can do this. He's right about that as well. I agree. He goes on to talk about how vocally, how the voice just doesn't, when you have harmonies, they just don't tolerate each other. Harmonies come together to accentuate the part next to it. When you have harmonies and they're joined together, they set each other off. It's one big picture of something beautiful and explosive. This leads us back to the Trinity that he was talking about before. It's intense, right? Intensely one, but undeniably 3. The church has largely neglected the biblical model for the Trinity. I agree with that statement to some degree. Music, on the other hand, we not only look at the way it mixes sounds, but we also see the way it creates an emotional empathy. For instance, the ability to show concern and align oneself with another's emotional state. Being there, and being present in that moment authentically, if you will. He's seen this in funerals and weddings and so on and so forth. But he speaks to a young lady named Cordelia. She's an English young lady. And in this instance, she's very standoffish. She's an introvert. She's not a people person. However, when they come together on stage, it's a totally different thing. Instantly, something clicks on. He knows her. She knows him. They're connected, and immediately establishes a rapport. This is what he means by being in alignment. Music is also empathetically powerful. It hooks into bodily gestures, if you will. Music has picked up on speech patterns of the sigh and colors it. Now, all of us know what a sigh is, and if you have any kind of discernment and so on and so forth, I mean, in the real world, when you look at it, a lot of times you can tell this person's aggravated, they're perplexed right now. Maybe they just need a break. There can be a million different things going on, but it's all about how you read the person, right? This is the same thing with music. When you create sighs and put them in musically, it says something emotionally and empathetically, and we can reasonably deduce when listening. I also like how it helps you to be able to learn how to read a room. If you, as a musician, is that's very important, especially if you go to church. You can go in and play something in contrast to what's going on and set an auri mood, or you can come in and be an enhancement. I like to think of musicians as assets and liabilities. You can be an asset to the service, or you can be a liability, if you will. It shows. So he did a study, and it shows long-term musical interaction with groups and its effects on children. I also did something similar a while back with music and its effects on individuals with cognitive illnesses and diseases. But in his case, he spoke of a gentleman who had amnesia. And this gentleman couldn't remember his name. He couldn't remember nothing. But the one thing, well, he remembered two things. One was the fact he loved his wife, and the other was if you set any kind of piece of music down in front of this gentleman, he was going to be able to play it, and it was going to be accurate, because that's just what he remembered. So, yeah. He also goes on to say something about you can demonize someone. You can't demonize someone you just made music with, because you're connected on a deeper level. I don't know how much I agree with that, but for what it's worth, I think it's worth mentioning. We learn what music is and what it could become emotionally and with empathy in mind. It can take us somewhere. We learn where we are now versus where we could go. Music also not only creates emotional empathy, but then finally, of the three, it coordinates us rhythmically. It moves us in more than one way. It's entertainment. Even when we sit still and listen to music, we can internalize it. It coordinates. It coordinates by giving a shared purpose and a vision. It gives an intense sense of being one with each other. Music synchronizes us together. That's another way we can share in strength and vision. Moving to music. I'm not going to say that. Yeah, so these are some of the things that happens with music, if you will. And then he goes on and says there's a Q&A, and he talks about how music is treated like something extra, and how it's treated in the world. People acknowledge it, but it can be enhanced. With God, it can be enhanced. And then it becomes transformative. And I can agree with that. I've seen this at certain times. But then he also goes on to ask a question. Norman is the other guy who's there in this Q&A part. And he asks the question, what is it about music, right? So he's saying, hey, we can get off work in a day, go through traffic, have kids that we have to deal with to do their homework, come to a church, that's probably not all the way put together, sit in a small room with 175 people just to sing. And when you get there to sing, you have to endure or deal with someone probably like me who's going to tell you that it's not perfect, right? So, what is it about music that makes us endure these things? And his answer to me was brilliant. It's not about perfection, because you really have to almost be like a Beethoven or Amadeus. So they were child prodigies, right? We're not perfect, so it's not about perfection. It's about the process. Um, which that leads me to my thesis, and one says music has the ability to bring everyone to common ground, and we can see this in church within liturgies and things like that, where people come together and have to sing, or music again commands the attention of an individual. But then two, it's a vehicle to express how we feel about God to God. There are points in service where music can be used as an emotional vehicle to get you to a starting point, to talk about God and your love for God, but then how you express it to Him, it magnifies it so that you can express how you feel about Him to Him. It promotes diversity from a cultural standpoint. I believe that we see enough multi-ethnic church, but we look at music, it promotes diversity on a multicultural level. We've seen people in different genres and different ethnicities when we do missions conference and things like that come together and they worship God. We worship one God, but we worship in the way that in our cultural setting or in our specific societies. So music promotes diversity in that sense, but then it promotes unity in God's church as well. And this is the most important part, because music has a tendency, I don't know if you've ever been in a place, but music to me is a universal language, right? So you don't need to know a person to be able to sing. You don't need to know who you're singing with to be able to know words. We came together and did this again for a missions conference at some point. A lot of people just coming together to sing, but we were singing praises to God and we knew the songs, so we were able to join in and have a praise party, if you will, of sorts. And so music promotes unity in that sense, where it brings people from all across the world together into one setting to be able to lift up the name of Jesus and be able to lift up praises into the holies of holies. It's a gateway between us and Christ, where we can give accolades and we can give worship and we can give praise. So a lot more can be said, but that's my time. All right. Thank you all for listening. Dr. Varma, I appreciate you for this opportunity. You all have a good day.